You spent your career working for large companies to begin with. You were at Accenture, you were at Bain and Company, and then you went into startup world, with a couple of different ventures, right? Some have been sold and acquired, some that you're working on at the moment. I also started in big FTSE 250 land. I spent 5 years for a massive corporate, right, before starting my own startup.
Nice.
And definitely learned a lot from the big companies that I applied to the startups, but also in many respects it was like the complete opposite as well. So I guess a nice easy question to get us started. What did you learn from working for huge, massive multinational businesses that could be applied to startup land? What lessons did you learn that perhaps you won't apply and have the reverse effect? Just tell us a little bit about that kind of journey from big companies to small companies and what you learned along the way.
Yeah, sure. So just to kind of set the landscape, there was Accenture, which is more on the technology consulting side, and then Bain Company, which is a strategy consultant. Accenture was an interesting one. It was, when I was there, 180,000 people, which just blew my mind. I was like, 180,000 people all sort of working in the same on the same thing and kind of trying to get all those folks going in the same direction. I've heard now it's 750,000 people, which is really that's a lot of people. They were amazing at process. So they would take on these absolutely enormous systems implementations. So, a bank needs to change fundamental parts of its kind of processing systems, and the bank themselves wouldn't dare touch it. So they'd get someone else in that sort of did this day in, day out, multi-year projects, and sometimes with thousands of people. And so they had the Accenture delivery model, I seem to remember, ADM, which was just the most amazing kind of set of processes. And you basically, you followed it, or you had to have a really good reason for why you hadn't. And that's why things sort of mostly didn't go wrong. I think they didn't quite get it right with the NHS, but other than that, generally pretty good. But there's very little room for sort of creativity, flexibility, and so on. When I got to Bain, it was very, very interesting. This was an unbelievably high-performing company, and it helps in the way that they recruit. So only 1 in 100 people who apply end up getting the job, and it's a pretty self-selecting set of people that apply who's to kind of back themselves. So, I mean, I don't know how I got in. I think there's a bit of luck there, but you've got a bunch of really, really smart people to start off. So that's amazing. And for the first time in your life, you're really like, good grief, look at the people around me. And then they managed to get them to do the work of their lives. And it was really a sort of set of very clever, different principles, I suppose. They had reasonably artificial deadlines. So they would just sort of stick in with the client. They'd be like, great, it's a 3-month project, and we're going to have an update. Let's say every 3 weeks, and every one of those updates, they wanted to make huge progress. And so we would absolutely work our butts off. Good projects were sort of finishing at 9, less good ones finishing at 12, and sometimes finishing at 3 in the morning. And so, we worked hard. And then when the clients saw the product, they said, "Oh, cannot believe how much ground you guys have covered in such a short space of time." And I thought, well, I do, because we've been working till 3 in the morning. But so there you go. But it was sort of amazing. It wasn't just always about the kind of working the hours. We had updates. You would often update your manager. Say when we work on private equity, which really were kind of tight timelines. You had 2 deadlines a day. So you'd have the sort of first check-in, and you might deliver for say 5 o'clock, and then we would sit down and do a plan for the day at 5 p.m. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how this is going to be, right? So just amazing to sort of see what is possible. And at the end of it, then you normally got the chance to have a break, just kind of refresh, recharge, you're exhausted, and then you sort of went again. So this is just amazing for sort of saying, okay, you can really do some stuff here. But I had this theory that you might be able to do things that effective, like have a really high performing team, but without the hours. And that was something I was really interested in exploring. And it's taken me sort of 2 or 3 startups to figure it out. But I now think there is a way where you can create, I want that intensity during the day. Yeah. And I ask a lot of the team, my current team, what I often say is I'm interested in the sweat, but not the blood or the tears. So sure. Basically, I love it when a product, we've kind of delivered on something and we've all got a bit sweaty. That's great. Sweaty is fun, and it means that you've really pushed it. But when there's kind of blood and tears on the feature, I'm like, oh, that's not sustainable. So we've got a lovely operating principle called Kipchoge, not Bolt. Kipchoge ran the first 2 hour, sub 2 hour marathon. I mean, the guy's a complete legend, but he did this as part of this amazing team, and he found this sustainable pace, albeit a sub 4 minute 30 per mile pace, which is nuts. But he found this pace that he could just do over and over again. And that's what I ask of the team. It's like, look, every month we're going to find this pace, and it's going to feel pretty fast because I want to be kind of championship winning here. And then we're just going to kind of keep on doing that. We've got to find this one that we can repeat month after month, because this thing is a marathon. So it's been really interesting sort of trying to take the big corporate stuff and then kind of go to the startups and be like, okay, well, I'm fully in control of this. How can we sort of get that same effectiveness, but do it in a much different way? And we've got 14 people at Lollipop, so it's completely different in terms of the setup. Yet we can still achieve really amazing things. And I think that speed actually is our competitive differentiator. Like, this is the thing that other folks in the market just cannot keep up with, provided that we sort of work in the right way to get there.
You can't at big companies, can you? Because like you say, you
No
had
way.
3-week timelines to make deliverables, and that's amazing. But in a startup, it's a 3-hour timeline to deliver something, or 3 days or something. So
Absolutely. One of our other operating principles is today, not tomorrow. And it's super simple. It's just, can we find a way to get any learnings, any customer learnings today?
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Like, when you actually put your mind to it and just get creative, even a thing that's like, oh, it's going to take about 3 weeks because of X, and then we've got to do Y and then Z. There's always this version which is like, oh, well, of course we could just do a thing that doesn't really work in the back end, but it means we could get a prototype in people's hands today. And sometimes you find ways where I've seen the team come up with stuff where they actually just come up with a super quick test, and now there's these wonderful platforms out there where you can just get some customer data within an hour. And so we're just having a conversation being like, oh, but would people rather do it this way or that way? And an hour later I'm sitting on Slack saying, yeah, okay, we've got the answer. It's like, okay, that's today, not tomorrow.
Yeah, I do a similar thing with my team where we don't have to-do lists, we have today lists, basically. And
love that.
because if you have something on a to-do list, it stays on the to-do list.
Mhm.
And then a month, 6 months, a year later, it's still there. And if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. To me personally, maybe some other people have figured it out, but I can't operate that way. It needs to be scheduled. It needs to have a time and place and a location for it to happen, and then I'll get it done. But
Love that.
if it's just some abstract idea, then it's just not going to happen, right? But,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.